thank you all for coming very much. I appreciate it. We're a pretty full house here, so again, thank you for your interest. We think it's a topic. Hopefully, you do too. Our topic, obviously, is the hospitality industry. We're all hospitality industry people here. Dealing with millennials, basically dealing with them from a development standpoint, from an operations standpoint, and from a marketing standpoint. What about the millennials makes the world different, and what do we have to do to basically cater to that, and how is that going to evolve in the future? And to talk about that, we've got a great panel, each member of which has got a hospitality industry type of property, several in the making, that really target not only millennials, but kind of the modern generations in terms of, because millennials really covers a wide variety of, it's a certain age group, but it's really a psychographic also that really covers a wide variety of people. To deal with that, our first panelist is Rohan Thakkar. Rohan is, pardon me for reading these, but there's a lot to say here. We have a very esteemed panel. Rohan is with Yotel. He joined them fairly recently as Director of Development. And basically he's responsible for growing the brand. They've got properties right now in New York and elsewhere, and they're responsible for growing the brand. I did tour the property yesterday. They have a very successful property here in New York, and a very unique property. And there's a lot for everyone to talk about in terms of what's going on there. Next is Jake Schwartz. Jake is the co-founder of Quicksilver Hotels and Resorts. It's a company with real estate developers, basically, and hotel operators, who really have dealt with Quicksilver to license a brand and co-develop, I guess it is, a series of properties around the world that really, they're developing a series of properties around the world that really cater to, again, the action sports brand and really cater to the Quicksilver brand. Next is Sam Bakhshandehpour. Sam is president of SBE and in charge of their hotels, resorts, and gaming group, which is a very active and very strong part of the company. He joined them several years ago. He's been with them since 2012. Prior to that, he's got a very long career, storied career, in the hospitality, gaming, and leisure industry on Wall Street, with JP Morgan Chase. Prior to that, with Deutsche Bank. And next is Alan Fuerstman. Alan is founder and chief executive officer of Montage Hotels and Resorts. I should know that. I've worked for years. And Alan has got a very storied career in the hospitality industry. He's a great hotelier and a great leader. Montage has been around since 2002, I believe, and has really kind of helped to redefine the luxury segment of the hotel industry. And prior to that, he's got a very good career with Wynn Resorts, and prior to that with Starwood Hotels and Resorts. Started his career with Marriott. So he's a very great hotelier and also a great leader in the hospitality industry. And they just announced last night officially, I guess, a new brand that's catered to this group as well as others. So with that, we've got a lot to hear about.
So just backing up to what the Yotel story has been, the hotel in New York opened in about 2011. But way back in 2007, the idea opened in the airport hotels. So two of our founders, Gerard Green and Simon Woodruff, were traveling on British Airways, and they got upgraded to first class and thought to themselves, well, why not create a hotel concept out of an airline first class cabin? And so, as you'll see in New York, and as you could see in our properties in our airports, it really was all modeled after the airline industry. So everything we use, whether it's mission control as our front desk, cabins is what we call our rooms, everything was about efficiency and also modeled after airline. In 2011, like I said, we opened the hotel in New York. And in 2012 and 2013, we took those 2 years to really digest what guests wanted and what millennials, as the topic is, really were looking after and what was important to them. So over the past 4 or 5 years between our city product and our airport product, we've taken that all, and in about 6 weeks, we're going to launch Yotel 2.0, which is a whole other generation of what Yotel will be at an affordable luxury price. And also our backing company, which is IFA, based in Kuwait and Dubai, has also upped their game, and they've been our backing for the past 4 or 5 years, and the ones who helped and gave us the confidence to build this brand. They've also instigated their CIO as our new CEO, and so you'll see in the next 4 or 5 weeks a whole new Yotel that we're about to relaunch. So what's our brand DNA? Pretty much in sum, it's stay, work, and play. So as you can tell, the rooms are small. 170 square feet is our average room size in New York, and in all our city products, about 100 square feet in our airport product. But really what we're going for is for guests to come in, stay, work, but really spend times in our public spaces. And so it's not necessarily about sitting in the room, using the desk, really spending time in that larger spaces. It's really getting them into the public spaces, into co-working and more interactive spaces. So who are our guests? Of course, Generation X, Y, Millennials, but it really isn't just about the Millennials. It's really about the Millennial mindset. So as I just mentioned, we have a huge amount of corporate business as well. So it's not necessarily just the leisure traveler, just the young generation. It really spans the breadth of all different types of travelers. So where does inspiration come from? Really 4 different areas. Again, a misconception that it's all about Japanese capsules. So Japanese capsules were the original part of conceiving this idea, but then there was also the first class cabin, like you can see, the normal hotel product, which we sometimes consider a little bit more stale, and then the boutique product. And mixing that all together, you get Yotel. The design, again, like I said, space maximization, attention to detail, a lot about technology, so thinking about how we can become more innovative and take the brand to the next level. As you can see, this picture was Yobot, which is our luggage concierge, which actually gave us more press than we could ever have imagined, which really was sponsored by Toomey as we started. And as we continue to grow, we'll continue to have similar ideas as we go into new cities. Like I said, we have 2 types of product. We have the city product in New York and then the airport product, which is a whole different model in which it's an hourly hotel. And you can go in for about 40 pounds into Gatwick, Heathrow, or Amsterdam Schiphol and shower, take a nap, and leave. This is a little bit about the design of the hotels, airport cabins. Again, like I said, they're about 80 to 100 square feet. There are larger rooms for families. And then our beds. In both our airport and city product, one of the more unique things is our bed, which goes up and down and allows you to continue to make the space more efficient. A little more pictures about the airport cabin. Here we're just trying to show more about the size and how we can fit a lot more of our cabins into a more efficient space. Our city cabin, like I said, is our main product in New York, which is 170 square feet. And really, as we continue to grow, will be what you'll see throughout our Yotels. And our public spaces. Here, we really are showing the New York spaces, but as we grow, every space will not be the same. Everywhere we go will be much more local-driven, market-driven. And so, like I said, a lot of the community, and we really want people to be co-working and being in spaces together.
I'm just a surf kid from San Diego, so I'm really honored to be on stage with such high-profile and accomplished businessmen, so thanks, guys. I'll give you a little bit about what we're doing. I don't know if anybody in the audience has heard a little bit of the buzz about what we're doing in Palm Desert. I'll talk about that project. I'm sure most people are familiar with the Quicksilver brand. Can I see a quick show of hands? How many people have either bought and worn or have kids that have worn Quicksilver or are familiar with Quicksilver? Yeah. That's a pretty positive response for me being up here. That I'm in New York City, people from all over the country, and I think that was probably about 80% of the people raised their hands. So, a couple of the things that we've been asked over the last few years is why Quicksilver? A lot of investors have asked us this, and Quicksilver was founded in 1969, originally in Australia. Bob McKnight brought it to the United States, and it was the first kind of surf brand that became public on the New York Stock Exchange. The company achieved over $2 billion in sales and has over 800 retail locations worldwide. There's an immense amount of market research available to us through the Quiksilver Corporation. We're very confident in the brand, and we know that the demographics, which is a pretty wide spectrum of demographic, which I'll touch on later in the presentation, we're very confident that they wear Quiksilver with pride, that the brand appeals to who their sense of being is, and the beautiful thing about having a partnership with Quiksilver is that they have global reach. Quicksilver delivered to us from day one a set of brand values, and our mission has been to take those brand values in the Quicksilver brand and digest it and understand it. Scott and I both grew up surfing in Southern California, and Scott lived in Hawaii for a long time too, so we felt like we had a pretty good handle on the DNA of Quicksilver, but as we soon realized, we still had a lot to learn about the brand, and Quicksilver provided us with a lot of information, so our mission is to translate that brand into the built environment and to the guest experience. A couple of the last 4 bullet points on there, authenticity, heritage, stoke, which means enthusiasm, and excitement, and then Ohana are the 4 key core brand values of Quicksilver. And those will translate into the built environment in our properties, and those key values go into everything we do, from laying the site out, site location, and operations. Since the topic of today is millennials, we'll touch on that, but again, I want to reinforce the idea that it's about 30% of our target market, but it is a key target market because it is growing and it is big. They grew up in the industry that we're really focused on, so from the moment they were born, they grew up in this action sports world, which I'll touch on. Just a quick profile of the millennials. I think a lot of people in the audience are probably somewhat familiar with what we're talking about, but we see it as age 13 to 33. These are confident people. You can't buy them. They're very tech savvy. One of the biggest standouts for us that we have really latched onto is what we call FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. This generation, more than any other generation, wants to be part of the scene. They don't want to hide out in the suburbs. They want to be in the middle of the action. They want to be among friends. And a lot of that's driven by social media and the psychographic changes that's caused in our culture. We all live in a fishbowl almost today. And so people aren't as afraid to be around other people. Obviously, because of technology, they rely, as anybody on stage will tell you, they rely very heavily on online reviews. I know when I go out to eat with my girlfriend and we go to try a new restaurant out, the first thing she does is pull out her smartphone and look at the ratings and the reviews of the restaurant before we go there. Hotels are no different. People, this industry is, this demographic is unique because, I'm from the Generation X demographic. We kind of created the action sports world, and the millennials were born in it. It was already there. So they grew up with it and they participate in it. Action sports industry is over $350 billion spent annually. Action sports team influence about $200 to $300 billion of their parents' spending. It crosses all generations and cultures. It's had explosive growth, as all of us have witnessed when we saw the Olympic Committee was going to take Winter Games off television, and snowboarding kind of saved all that with the half pipe and Shaun White. Everybody was watching it on TV. It's still very popular today. And the growth rate of action sports has been significantly faster than all of the traditional sports. We have research that shows us in the United States that the millennials, they claim their activities, as far as our brand is concerned, is that 65% claim that they work out at the gym. Now, within that 65%, you have a smaller subset that says they work out daily, and then you have a little bit larger subset that says they work out regularly, and you have another subset that says they kind of work out sometimes. I kind of grouped it all together for simplicity and said, 65% say they work out. I work out sometimes. 45%, same thing with skateboarding. Obviously, a smaller percentage than 45 do it daily, but 45% claim they skateboard, 35% claim they snowboard, and 20% claim they surf. Obviously, surfing's only on the coast, but as you'll see in our presentation, we're hopefully going to change that. Millennials define their self-image. Again, males and females here. 16%, kind of would claim that they're in the surfing genre. 21% in skateboarding, 24% or 21% in snowboarding, 24% in skateboarding for males. And it's a little less for females, but I can tell you, having grown up in the water, surfing about 3 or 4 times a week, that the amount of females in the water has been quite compelling nowadays. So, and especially when you go to Hawaii. There's a lot of research about the millennials. All the secrets are out. Obviously, what's going to happen over the next few years is yet to be seen. I think it's going to, in large part, be technology-driven. But, some of the, main elements is that, we got to let these individuals be very self-reliant, using their smartphones and apps. The internet connectivity in a lot of hotels today, as we know, raise your hand if you've ever been disappointed with the internet connectivity in a hotel. Okay. Wireless technology, they can reshape your eyeball with a laser beam. For some reason, they can't figure out how to make your internet work perfectly. I can't figure it out. But, that's obviously a big focal point. We got to be wired and connected. We all know Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook are huge. We want to have apps available on cell phones when you come to the resort, which I'll talk about in a little while, that kind of navigate people. Our first property in Palm Desert's 80 acres, so it's quite sizable. We're all about that FOMO, fear of missing out element of the millennials and Generation X. So one of the things we've been real confident about is our ability to have large action sports competitions on site and on the property to bring the demand. It's one of our key demand drivers. Entertainment, action sports, things like the X Games, the Dew Tour, we've all heard of them. I'm sure many of you have kids that have wanted to go to those events. So we're providing the opportunity to have large competitive events on the property. One of the key things about the whole Quicksilver brand in general is that typically you go to a hotel, and for years it's been about relaxation. You go, it's food and beverage, you hang out, you want to be in a nice place, you kind of want to tone down, get away from the world. Our philosophy is a little different. We want people to come and get active. Put your tennis shoes on, quit being lazy, go try something new. If you've never surfed, we're going to have wave pools for you to go try out surfing. There'll be surfing instructors and surfing classes. If you've never skateboarded, you can try that too. There'll be beginner classes for that. So we want to try to get people into the action. And that's one of our big, defining components of our brand. Obviously, communal gathering will be a huge part of the property in many different areas. The millennials kind of created this whole new foodie generation. It expresses who they are. It's entertainment for them. They're very conscientious, as we know, about the health of the past generations and how it's fallen apart in America, how America's gotten obese and what the causes of that have been. And so they're very aware of it, and they don't want to be like that anymore. So they read all the labels. They know the difference between what natural and organic is, and you can't fool them. A lot of times the guest in a restaurant is more educated about nutrition than the server is. So we got to be really on top of our game as far as food and beverage is concerned. Make sure that we're hitting all the right buzzwords and that we're really delivering a high-quality product. The millennials around the world perceive Quicksilver very positively in general. They're proud to wear it. They feel that it expresses their personal style. They obviously grew up with the brand, and most importantly to us is that they trust the Quicksilver brand. It's always been perceived as a quality brand. They've always been happy with their purchase for the most part, and Quicksilver's always done a really good job at making sure that they're always creating an innovative product and ahead of the competition. They have a new board short out now that it's called the AG47, and if you ever want to find out how high-tech a pair of surf trunks can be, you got to check it out. It's pretty fascinating stuff. This is a preliminary concept that is, we're a little further along in the design process than this, but this is the graphic that I had available to us right now. Gensler is our land planner architect for our Palm Desert site in California. There's 27 million people in Southern California and the 3 and 4 largest counties that can drive to the property within 2 hours. We're very excited about that. We've got 3 large site area components. We'll have retail, wave pools, the hotel. We'll have some private villas that are available for sale that can be put in the hotel rental pool. And obviously, we're going to have a ton of parking. That's going to be one of our big challenges, is parking all the cars. We're a 4-star hotel, full service, depending on where the property is located, 150 to 400 rooms, fully amenitized. We'll have all the typical bells and whistles of pools and spas and restaurants and lounges. This is a property that the adventurous type of traveler, would seek, and we'll be in locations that offer, different types of adventures, whether it's eco-tourism, photography, hiking, kayaking, surfing, snowboarding, all of the above. We are looking at properties all over the world. They seem to be coming at us on a daily basis, and we're trying to hand select the locations we think fit the brand the best. So it's a very upbeat, lively hotel environment. And our core market areas that we target are obviously on the coast, near good surf locations, up in the mountains for snowboarding and skiing. Urban, Quicksilver, believe it or not, has a very urban side to the brand too. If you've never been to the Quicksilver store in Times Square, I encourage you to go check it out. It'll give you a new sense of what Quicksilver is about from an urban standpoint. And obviously, we're very fond of properties that allow us to build wave pools that are, that are away from the ocean too. Our amenities, we have a lot of the typical amenities that you see in 4- and 5-star resorts today. But our key amenities that we're most proud of are our wave pools and our skate parks. Whether you actually participate in skateboarding or surfing, A lot of people will definitely claim that they're a big fan and enthusiast of it, and they love to sit around and watch. I mean, a lot of people will go to the beach and watch surfing for hours, hang out on the beach, or go to an X Games or a Dew Tour and watch skateboarding. It's pretty fascinating to be part of. Obviously, we've talked about farm to table foods. We'll have a full service spa. One of the brands that Quicksilver owns is called the Roxy brand. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Roxy. Roxy is Bob McKnight's daughter's name, and he started a female surf line in her name, and it's been incredibly successful. And it's much more than just a surf brand today. It's kind of evolved into like fitness wear and active wear as well, and they've got really nice casual wear. We'll have a Quicksilver retail store. Obviously, there's over 800 retail locations around the world, so we'll have Quicksilver retail on property too. And then, of course, live entertainment is one of our big key components. I don't think there's a resort in the world that's not tapping into the eco-friendly aspect of development. So I don't want to beat on this too much, but it's all the typical buzzwords. We're no different. Quicksilver is very, very ahead of its competitors in terms of sustainability as a brand globally. And so our hotel needs to satisfy their needs to be sustainable in all categories. So they're keeping a hawk eye on us on everything in that category. Events and entertainment, this is what we're most proud of. Our connectivity to the action sports industry is like no other brand in hospitality. Just because we pride ourselves, Quicksilver is one of the godfather brands of the surf, skate, snow industry. We have connectivity to the Red Bulls of the world, to the GoPros. We've had lots of dialogues with entertainment companies and how we're going to have different calendar of events going on, whether it's competitions or live entertainment. And those become a big demand driver for us. So we got to have a large parking garage. But some of the big things that we're doing that are a little different are education. We want to bring the kids into the mix at the hotel and give them something to do. While maybe mom and dad are golfing, they can go and get an education on different topics. We'll have a lot of opportunity to do big industry events and fashion shows. The surf, skate, snow industry is a really big industry globally. There used to be a industry association event every year called ASR, which stood for Action Sports Retail. That name got changed to Agenda. So if you look online and you research what Agenda is all about, you'll get a sense of who all the big brands are that are in the industry. And so we have a lot of credibility in that world, and we're very proud of that. Art and photography is a huge part of the surf, skate, snow industry. So we plan to have a lot of events based around art and photography. Anytime you pick up a surfing magazine, I can't think of any time I've never picked it up and haven't been in awe of some of the photography from around the world. We're very family oriented, so we have little buzzwords like family movie nights. Want to have some pretty interesting things, and sports training classes will be a big component of the brand as well. Jumping into our target market, to simplify it, it's half families, half fun seekers. So to break it down a little further, 20% of our target market is the baby boomers. That's mom and dad, as well as Gen X. That's also mom and dad, but I'm still a Gen X. I don't have kids, so you don't have to be a mom and dad to be Gen X. But Gen X is a key ingredient for us because, we kind of created the action sports world. We're the ones who made it cool. The millennials grew up in it, but the topic of the conversation today is the millennials. And then, of course, you have 15% of our target market is just people that kind of want to come and hang out and be part of. When I was in school, you had the different groups on campus. You had the surf kids and the skate kids, and they all kind of hung out. And then you had the kids that were never really a part of those kids, but they wanted to be. Well, we want to be, welcoming them too to come and kind of watch us do our thing. So, in the United States, males, about 20% of them consider themselves, and the millennials consider themselves core action sports athletes. 22% are just fans, and then about half the millennials don't seem to really care about action sports too much. And on the females, the number breaks down where 53% of the females don't really seem to care too much about action sports, but 21% of them consider themselves a core action sports athlete. 27% are enthusiasts. Some of the key opportunities that we have as a brand is the authenticity of the Quicksilver brand in general, is bringing that to the built environment. We have a great relationship with Quicksilver. We have a lot of credibility, again, in the action sports industry. Opportunity to bring a lot of celebrity athletes onto the site. They have huge followings. When you go onto their Facebook page, you see how many likes they get and how many friends they have and Instagram photos they get posted. So when those kind of athletes are on our property, it's going to create a huge draw for us. We're very excited about that. So again, competitions and live events. And one of the big things also about the action sports industry is it kind of has its own fashion genre. and there's a ton of brands out there. And so we want to have, you know, a lot of fashion shows and opportunities for these brands to come to the property and then exemplify what they're doing for the years out. Some of our big challenges on the property are going to be, again, parking all the cars, keeping the place safe. Going to be a lot of people. Keeping technology up and working. Again, you know, that's going to be an ongoing challenge, I think, for any hotel developer in the future, is making sure that your internet is constantly streaming, is constantly being improved, is constantly providing the amount of data that new smartphones are, you know, requiring. So that's always going to be a challenge. Another big challenge is just knowing the action sports world in general. We have a couple partners that are just, you know, one of our partners is Jim Simpson. He actually invented the seamless wetsuit for surfing. So he's been really, really rooted in the action sports industry and has huge connectivity in that world, and that's very important to us. Gives us a lot of credibility. And the other challenge is changing with the times like anybody else. You really got to be one step ahead of everybody, because development is a long process. And so keeping up with technology and keeping up with what's cool is a big challenge in the world, because it takes, you know, sometimes 3 years. By the time you find a property, it can take even longer if you're in California. 3 years by the time you find a property, buy it, and actually get it ready to open, it can take a long time. So a lot changes in 3 years, so that's always going to be a challenge. Of course, environmental sensitivity and staying on top of industry trends. There's our email addresses. If anybody wants to write them down and reach out to us later, I can answer more questions. That's it. Thank you. Yep.
Sam?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Bakhshandehpour. I'm the president of SB Entertainment. Thanks, bud. We're actually the exact opposite of Quicksilver. I am not into action sports. I don't surf. I don't do any of that. I get you fat and drunk. And if you merge our two companies, be perfect. I'll get everyone drunk. And I think the closest we come to action is we have a party where we spray champagne. That's the gist of it. SB, the premise of SB was always geared towards building a hotel company that targets, whether you call it Gen X, Millennials, Gen Y, it targets a demographic that's growing, that seeks authenticity, that looks for recognition, that, I forgot the phrase you used, was a very eloquent phrase, but basically they want to belong, they don't want to miss out, FOMO. They don't want to miss out, and really it wants to be where the relevant action is. And you know, at SB, what we started off is we started with one nightclub in Hollywood and expanded the nightclub empire to adding restaurants. And the goal was really to target this demographic from whether it's a $10 hamburger to a fine dining experience, and take that content, incorporate it into a hotel, and we backed into being hoteliers. And ultimately, when our customer makes enough money and graduates, they'll become Alan's customer when they can afford to stay at a Montage. But in the interim, it's about throwing great events, high energy, very cool places that are relevant. And as you can see, our strategic positioning is we do have hotel flags. There are 4 distinct hotel flags, SLS Hotels being our high-end flag, currently with 3 properties open in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and in South Beach. We have a limited service flag called Hyde Resorts. There's 2 under development in Miami. We have an extended stay brand called Redberry, and we're launching a gay and lesbian flag called Abbey House, where we have a nightclub in Hollywood. Long story short, these 4 flags, what differentiates us is the content. And it's the high energy environment. And I forgot who stated it so perfectly earlier. We don't want you to spend time in the room. You know, I aspire to charge the rates Alan does, but I want you out of the room and spending money in our restaurants, our lounges, our nightclubs. And we have a whole variety of brands, which I'll tick through quickly, won't spend a lot of time on, but you can see whether it's on the nightlife side, the restaurant side, we have a residential component to all the SLSs going forward. And we have one casino, which we launched a couple months ago in Las Vegas, which is our only casino entity. Our customer is exactly what's been described up here. It's a highly affluent, successful customer that is very discerning when it comes to how they spend their dollars. I don't think you'll find this generation lacking in spend. They more than welcome spending, whether it's bottle service or fine dining. I think what is really the key is recognition and walking into a location. I always use this example, and I'm a huge fan of Nobu, so I'm not picking on Nobu. I had dinner, I remember it was Valentine's Day. I had dinner in Nobu, Malibu, and I live on the West Coast. And I caught a red eye to New York and I had a closing dinner here in Midtown. And this was the ultimate trifecta of my life because I was heading down to South Beach with some friends, and we're actually, a few years ago, we're staying at the Short Club. And I'm like, we're going to Nobu 3 nights in a row. This is the greatest 3 nights of my life. Walk into Nobu, didn't have reservations, and I explained, I'm like, yeah, I was in Malibu and had a closing dinner in New York, and now I'm in South Beach. They looked at me like, don't really care. You don't have a reservation. You can go sit at the bar. And I remember that experience I shared with our marketing team, where I'm like, you know, I wasn't looking for free sushi or a free cocktail. I wanted a high five, is what I wanted. I wanted to walk into Nobu Shore Club with my couple of buddies and say, listen, guys, this is my 3rd Nobu experience, and they should know this. And that's all I was looking for. Obviously, I didn't get it. So our marketing team, one of the things we have invested heavily in is technology, and you were spot on. I think what differentiates this generation going forward is the smartphones and is the recognition via technology. And people aren't afraid to share their personal data online, and it's a show. Everyone's at, you know, I feel uncomfortable. I reread my post and make sure the punctuation is right, and do I look good from this angle? Then I realize I don't have a good side, and you know. But this generation, they're posting like rapid fire about their day-to-day experiences, and I think that's just a generational shift. So when you know that as hoteliers, as restaurateurs, nightclub operators, our venues are on display 24/7. And we're being compared to Quicksilver, to Montage, to all the other great brands out there. So what differentiates us? And you know, as you know, and I'm flipping through these slides quickly, this customer, it's a very tricky customer base. They want to make sure that their spend results in recognition. And you can see, you know, you have business, leisure, and the combination. This demographic is making more money, is traveling more, has a lot more options available to them, and they're not afraid to spend in general. And this is where our app comes in and hopefully differentiates us, where our app is called The Code. And what The Code was meant to do, selfishly speaking, was to recognize me on my 3rd visit in 3 nights to Nobu. They'll say, welcome to Nobu, Mr. Bakhshandehpour. We know you've spent, you know, a lot of money and traveled all over the place. You know, here's a high five. And when I walk up, they know I like sparkling water with lime. While I'm waiting for my reservation, they say, we know you like sparkling water with lime. And they hand it to me, I'll wait. Now I have no problem waiting 45 minutes for a table, which is more like 2 hours at Nobu. But it's worth it. And at that point, you're like, you know what? In front of my friends here, I've been recognized, and they make me feel wanted. And what we do, whether it's in our casino, as you know, whether you're a gambler, if it's in one of our nightclubs, restaurants, all of our employees have access to this database where, again, this generation allows you to follow them, and they share information very liberally. If someone walks up to me and they're like, you know, when's your birthday? I'm like, what do you want to know my birthday for? But here they're posting likes, dislikes, preferences, which actually makes our jobs a lot easier because to track that data is not an anomaly. People log into new apps with Facebook. Sure, access all my contacts, no worries. So as we sit here trying to figure out how do you target this millennial generation, Gen Y, Gen X, tracking is a huge part of it. And our investment in our app, which will launch next year, and this isn't points-based. It's not like I've stayed 3 nights and I get a fourth night free. Again, it's recognition. It's, I know you're from the West Coast, you enjoy crispy rice with spicy tuna, we have it waiting for you. That's it. And we know it's your wife's birthday or it's your anniversary. Here's a gift from us, go to the spa. That doesn't really exist right now within the lifestyle category. As I mentioned, our hotel flags, we did an adaptive reuse in Beverly Hills, which was the first SLS. It was an old property, we converted it, and we brought in a partner, Jose Andres, to do our restaurant called The Bazaar. We have a very active rooftop scene at this hotel, which led to our second SLS opening in South Beach, which again was an adaptive reuse. And if you look closely, it still says Ritz Plaza at the very top. And for those of you who've invested and dealt with Miami, the Historic Preservation Society is very keen on maintaining the authenticity of these properties. We work closely with them. And SLS South Beach was, one of the bigger successes because this was a new market for us going into Miami. And again, we led, it's 141 keys. We led with restaurants and nightlife. We have our Japanese brand, Katsuya. Jose did a second bazaar concept for us. We have a lounge in the back called Hyde, HYDE. And this property exemplifies what we do in that half of our revenues are rooms, half of our revenues are F&B. The Redberry in Hollywood, we have one in Hollywood, one in South Beach, is our extended stay brand. These are all suite products. This was actually a residential tower. It's 57 keys in Hollywood, 69 keys in South Beach. Very differentiated, high energy. We throw a lot of events, and events just like Quicksilver is a huge part of our business, which I'll get to. Some pictures of our property in South Beach. The Raleigh we owned, and we sold that to Tommy Hilfiger, which again exemplifies how, whether it's action sports, fashion, I guess we're the drinking company or the food company. Everyone's trying to tap in with their own unique angle into this millennial generation. We're managing this property for Tommy. SLS Vegas opened a couple months ago. Like I said, it does have a casino, 1,600 rooms. And then on the restaurants, I'll flip through these quickly. You can see our goal was, again, to have a differentiated restaurant offering. I guess my presentation doesn't work. So what we have is everything from Umami Burger. We have a couple of those open here. We have about 30 umamis nationally. We have a pizza concept, fast casual. We have a Mediterranean, like I mentioned. Our spinoff of Nobu Zuma is called Katsuya. So it really does span the spectrum from a quick grab and go all the way to a fine dining experience. Same thing holds true on nightlife. We have everything from the big DJ nightclubs to the more exclusive lounges. We have a brand called Hyde. We have one in Staples Center, American Airlines Arena, which again is continuing to provide a unique experience for those that like to go to games. We have a live music venue called Sayers Club, and everyone from Prince to Stevie Wonder threw his birthday party, Capital Cities, bands that I'm not cool enough to know who they are, popping into this joint left and right. And then events. We specialize, we have a full events and partnership division. And this is one of the areas that's been unbelievably successful for our company in that the events are the activations. And you name it, from Golden Globes to Oscar parties to Sundance. We throw the events, and then we have a lot of partners and sponsors that literally pay for these activations and want to partner, whether it's Avion's our exclusive water, to the spirits, BMW's our house car. These joint ventures, and I realize this, I'm the slow one within the company, but I realize this late to the game. Again, all of these partners want access to our demographic. Pepsi, for example, sponsored our grand opening party at SLS Vegas. And they have a whole entertainment division. Iggy Azalea, Rita Ora were the acts. And there's Pepsi literally all over our property through all of our LED screens. And I turned to my partner, Sam Nazarian, I'm like, when was the last time you drank Pepsi? And he turned to me and goes, exactly. And when you think about Pepsi is making an amazing push to, again, get people from this millennial demographic to drink Pepsi. I'm not a soda drinker. I don't work out either, but it's, I probably should start drinking soda. But it's the perfect case study of how you have a soda company with deep wallet looking to target the millennials through our events. And like I mentioned, we've thrown all sorts of, great events, whether it's around Fashion Week, Swim Week, with these activations coming from, all of our partners. Speaking of, there's Pepsi and Avion and Red Bull, which I'm a big fan of and I need regularly, but it spans a spectrum of corporate beverage, spirit, and non-spirit partners. And in summary, and I think that's the last slide I have, this demographic is one that is not shrinking, it is growing. It's an aspirational customer base. What we try to do is get them out of the room, get them hooked on our food and beverage, nightlife, events, and then we can push rate. And when we look at the evolution, its tastes change very rapidly. They want to be recognized. And if you don't evolve, I think you're left behind very quickly. And it's getting tougher and tougher to stay relevant with respect to the taste of this demographic. So With that, I'll pass it on to the main show, Alan, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Great introduction to the segment on millennials, and as I get into the presentation a little bit, you'll see why we're so excited about that segment. I started Montage Hotels and Resorts in 2002, and we compete in the ultra-luxury segment of the industry. And when I was looking at the ultra-luxury world back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I thought the next generation of luxury traveler was really looking for a shift, and that old world luxury was generally too pretentious, too stuffy, a lot of snobbery associated with it, and I thought that the next generation was looking for a more comfortable luxury. So we built Montage around a comfortable luxury, much more gracious, humble approach to hospitality, and tried to strip much of that scriptness and as I mentioned, that attitude that existed so strongly. And what we found is that this notion of comfortable luxury, yet with incredible attention to detail and craftsmanship, really resonated well with that next generation of luxury traveler that we were looking for. But we were pleasantly surprised that even the older generation were saying, well, we never needed all that stuff anyway, never really liked it. And that this whole notion of comfortable luxury really is the background and the notion of what Montage has been built around. Montage destinations, we look to put the flag in locations that could support ultra-luxury rates. We generally define that as rates $500 and above. And the kind of markets that we looked at very much can do that. The first hotel that we opened was Montage Laguna Beach in 2003. 250 rooms on the ocean, all ocean view. Strong residential component as well, 14 ocean estate lots and 14 villas that we sold, all at record pricing, almost double what the market was selling at the time. Residential feel is part of what we were looking for, great craftsmanship, spectacular views. Again, a residential feel, and this is standard, typical guest room. One of our restaurants, the studio restaurant. Ultimately, just the ideal platform for us to create a brand. 5 years later, we opened Montage Beverly Hills in 2008, November of 2008. Couldn't have picked a worse time to open, actually, as the world was crumbling around us. But we were able to persevere and actually thrive. We had 20 residents to sell, and we've sold out of all our residents there, again, at more than double the pricing that had ever been achieved in the Beverly Hills market. Resales are now right around the 3,000 square foot range, which is well over double anything that had been seen in the market prior to that. The hotel is really the urban rendition of what we're doing as a company and really introduced Montage to an international traveler as well. The New York market is a very strong market for Beverly Hills, but so too is the rest of the world. Standard guest room, again, the residential feel to it, one of our restaurants, 10-pounder bar upstairs, rooftop pool. It's in the heart of Beverly Hills, steps to great restaurants, steps to Rodeo Drive, so really amazing location. We followed that up with Montage Deer Valley in Park City, Utah. 174 rooms, 81 residences, mid-mountain ski in, ski out. But I share this picture because what we really discovered was it's become the quintessential year-round mountain resort. There's so much to do in Park City, from the hiking, mountain biking, archery, multiple events and programs for families and kids. It's just been a huge summertime appeal as well. The style of the hotel is mountain craftsman. And one of the foundations of our company is, as we design properties, have a great sense of place. So Deer Valley, Laguna, you saw, was craftsman style beach. Beverly Hills, Spanish Revival architecture, very much in keeping with the city. And then here we have mountain craftsman. Each property has a true sense of place, but what translates really well was the style of service from one Montage to the next. Right on the mountains, great skiing accessibility. One of the highlights of Montage Deer Valley is our pub and rec room, Dailies, where we have a bowling alley, and it is the multi-generational hub where grandparents and kids are competing in bowling. And it's just been a remarkable experience for our guests. And little things like this have added a lot to the enjoyment factor at the hotel. Indoor swimming pool, great emphasis on spas. We followed up Deer Valley in 2013 with the acquisition of what is now Montage Capitol Bay. It was formerly the Ritz Residences, Capitol Bay. 144 residences, whole ownership and fractional. We converted the unsold fractional inventory to hotel, and that yielded about 50 hotel keys. So it's an incredible guest room product. 2, 3, 4 bedroom suites is essentially all the rooms, all ocean front. You can see the location here. It sits right on the ocean. It's the site of the old Capitol Bay Hotel, then ultimately the Ritz Residences. They spent an incredible amount to build the infrastructure there, and we were very fortunate as we partnered with Lantern Hospitality, and took over the property in 2013, opened it as Montage in June of this year, added a restaurant, rounded out some of the amenities, and did a redesign of some of the rooms. This is a standard guest room. Great residential feel to it, and all have these huge lanais. The fifth Montage Hotel, which we acquired, was the Inn at Palmetto Bluff. We took over in February of this year. For those of you who have not seen it, it's in the low country of South Carolina, between Savannah and Hilton Head. 50 cottages. Really an amazing product, spread out over 20,000 acres is Palmetto Bluff. And the plan there is we've begun a 150-room addition, an expansion of the inn. It'll be a 200-room Montage Hotel. We're doing it with our partner Athens. And we're developing that to be really the sister property of Montage Laguna Beach. Has all the great amenities, incredible golf, Jack Nicklaus signature course, equestrian, water sports. We have now a fleet of over 20 boats, canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddleboarding, and a great vacation and resort destination. And the addition of the additional rooms will really help support the residential sales with 20,000 acres, much of which is in conservatorship, but with a huge residential project there, the hotel will help generate the additional residential sales, a big part of that strategy. So why am I sitting up here with the Millennials today? Well, recognizing the extraordinary attributes of a Montage and the relatively limited markets to grow in, we looked at the industry and where was a way that we could leverage what we do well and optimize the infrastructure that we created with Montage. And the niche that leaped out for us was luxury lifestyle. Boutique or lifestyle hotels, pioneered by Schrager and others, was the hallmark. Well, the hallmark of those properties was really design and nightlife. The strength of Montage is service delivery. We hypothesized about what would happen if we blended the renowned service of Montage with the progressive design and highly activated public spaces of the leading lifestyle brands. The result is the introduction of Pendry. This morning, we announced the Pendry brand. The first Pendry is San Diego. We broke ground there about 10 days ago. Pendry is our lifestyle luxury brand. It's the intersection of service and design. It will reflect the progressive design of the best lifestyle hotels of our generation, and it will be coupled with the service culture of Montage. It's geared toward a psychographic customer in their 30s, but it will attract customers of all ages. As it relates to millennials, we're going after a customer at the older end of the millennial range, a bit more established, higher discretionary income, maturing out of the first generation of lifestyle hotels. They love the design sensibility of those hotels, but are now looking for more in service. So we're positioning ourselves squarely in the middle of the Venn diagram here, service-centric hotels and design-centric hotels, and there's a huge opportunity for Pendry. fact, the name Pendry is geared toward that customer. The name Pendry came from a British surname that dates back to the 1300s, whose family motto was "Know Thyself." It was very fitting for the aspirational ethos of that customer: confident, self-aware, intellectually curious, engaging. The co-founder and creative director for Pendry is my son, Michael Fuerstman. He's a millennial, though he doesn't particularly like that label. He has led the development of the brand and is going to be leading the rollout of the brand going forward. This is a rendering of Pendry, San Diego. As I mentioned, we broke ground about 10 days ago. It sits in the center of the gas lamp district in San Diego. It is the most vibrant, energetic corner of the gas lamp, and the gas lamp is known for energy, nightlife, excitement, right up Sam's alley with the exciting things they've done, and we've taken great inspiration from he and some of the other great operators. This hotel will be 317 rooms, rather large for most Pendrys. I think that the typical Pendry would be about 150 to 200 rooms. This happens to be 317, 22,000 square feet of meeting space, 4 restaurants. We'll have a beer hall, a nightclub, 2 specialty restaurants. We'll have a rooftop pool deck, highly activated. And the reason this is a little larger than most will be, we're really playing off the location, a block away from the convention center, steps away from Petco Field. So really in the hub of all the action and activity, and it'll serve as a great flagship as our very first Pendry. So Pendry San Diego is in the works. We've been working 2.5 years on this, but really generally kept it under wraps because we didn't want to announce the brand until we were ready to put the shovel in the ground. But now that we've announced this, and now that we've announced this morning the actual new brand, you'll see over the next 3 to 6 months probably another 3 or 4 Pendrys that we've announced that are currently in design, and we're just not ready to announce yet. It's on a great location. And some of the questions coming out earlier, how does that differ how does Pendry different from Montage? So we really put a side by side. Montage is our selective growth platform. Pendry, much more opportunistic growth platform. Montage is about the personalized service. Pendry about personalized experiences. Montage, 5-star luxury, 5-star service. Pendry, readily available service. Montage is traditional luxury. Pendry, we're coining it twisted traditional. A whole lot more fun, much more playful in many ways. It fits the brand. Montage has a sense of geographic place. Pendry has a sense of cultural place. Montage, traditional art for viewing. Pendry, contemporary art that engages. Montage is about casual elegance. Pendry, casual hip. Montage, efficient technology. Pendry, exceptionally engaging technology. Montage has luxury retail. Pendry will have pop-up retail, or what we'll call a clean, well-lit space where we can rotate artisans through and maybe have rotating pop-up shops where it might be in San Diego, the first guy might be the guy painting sneakers or doing T-shirts or skateboards. We'll be able to engage and have interesting pop-up retail. Montage's emphasis is on hiring and training. Same emphasis on hiring and training. That same notion of service will translate well to Pendry. Montage satisfies the guest's needs and desires. Pendry satisfies the guest's interests. Montage is about memorable, high-touch experiences. Pendry is about a memorable, cool vibe. The benefit of Pendry to Montage is enormous. It opens up a much larger universe of destinations in which we can operate. The kind of cities and locales that don't work for Montage work magnificently well for Pendry. And it really helps us remain as vigilant and disciplined as to where we'll put the Montage flag. And one of the challenges for an ultra-luxury company is not to compromise on where we put that flag and not to end up in secondary and tertiary cities that can't support the rate. By having an alternative brand that has broad appeal, that can appear in markets like San Diego where I can't put a Montage because I can't get the rate, or Austin, or Nashville, or Seattle, West Hollywood, Baltimore. There's many locations where we can pop in a Pendry and capture that lifestyle vibe, and very excited about it. Press release came out this morning, and I'm happy to share that with you today. That's why we're here with the Millennials.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our panelists. I think we've got a lot of great information out of this. We've got about 10 minutes left. I've got some questions and comments from the panel, but before I get to that, do any of you have questions that you'd like to ask? Anybody? Okay. What big question I've got for all you guys is, we've heard a lot of words that deal with technology. We know that issue isn't going to change. These people are not going to get stupider about technology. So hotels are going to have to continue to be technologically savvy. They're going to have to be continually able to adapt to whatever the new technologies are as these people, as millennials age, as the world ages. We know that we're going to continue to have to get better technologically. But as the millennials age, are the values going to change? Are the cultures going to change? Are the hotels that they adapt to going to change? How do you see that? Any of you? Alex, to start?
Yeah, they'll start coming to Montages, I think, as Sam mentioned before. The front end of the technological change is happening at the millennial side of it, but believe me, it carries through completely. So even in, we're tablets in the room now, or moving in that direction where they don't exist today. We rely extensively on the reviews of TripAdvisor to help generate, business. We love the transparency that has created, and that's just going to continue. We are, even in the Montage brand, is actively engaged in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well, and we've taken the lead in many cases from the more progressive brands, but they're leading the way, and as millennials age, we think they'll be looking for more service as they get more discretionary income. So our excitement is that's a huge growing population, and the ability to provide the balance of service and the design and technology and all those things will really help. We see the day, and we're very hopeful as we open Pendry, where repeat guests will not go to the front desk. You'll have a guest key. You'll have a key or a card with an RFID chip in it, and we'll go ahead and text you your room number, and your key will go open the room you're at. And once you're familiar with the hotel, and if you don't want to stop by the front desk, you don't need to. We will make life as easy as our customers want it to be. The trick, though, is there's a wide spectrum of what the customers want. So you also have to make it easy enough for those that aren't technical savvy to operate and navigate in that world. So the balance is finding a way to do both, where you're appealing to the high-tech customer, but you're not losing the high-touch notion of what really the hospitality business is all about.
And you've got 4 different brands here, each one of which, and a number of sub-brands within SPE, but each one of which has got its own niche. It's very well defined as to what it is, who it's going for. Clearly, we know that in this generation and future other generations too, one size does not fit all. And the industry is moving more and more towards niche marketing and niche targeting, as you guys are seeing and doing it very well. What's the implication going to be for the hotel industry overall? You're all great brands, but a relatively small number of hotels compared to the size of the hospitality industry nationally. And yet, this generation isn't going to go away. That's the next generation of Gen X's and so on. What's going to happen? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're already seeing the transition to a lot of the big flags targeting this generation, whether it's, the Andaz's, Editions of the world, and the success that, that list that Alan had up there with, the James, Standard, et cetera. You need to launch a product that is relevant to the various niche that exist out there, even within the millennial demographic. It's an aspirational customer base, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. I think the biggest challenge, and Alan touched upon this, is when we look at our hotel companies, which one of our flags can we scale? And, a Montage, and, I would categorize SLS as aspirational to trying to get that type of rate. You can't have 100 SLSs. And each one is customized, whether it's South Beach, soon to be Park Avenue. They're customized to the markets. And we know who our demographic is. We know what the specific market likes and dislikes are. But there are other brands that are scalable. And when we look at our companies, it's how do you balance scaling up and ramping up into all the cities that you know would benefit from your flags without losing that customization, that personalization, and really that character and soul of the product. Because it's so easy when you go into a lot of the, what I'll call cookie cutter hotels. They're very functional. They're nice product, but they really don't have any energy or soul to those products. And that's what we always debate in our boardroom is how do you scale up, targeting the specific needs of our customers without losing the essence of what our brands are.
The other issue is all four of you, again, have very different brands. But all four of you use certain common words, which sound like the common in the industry as a whole and have to be engaged by the whole industry. Some of it is soul, as you just said. It's authenticity. It's relating to your local sense of place. It's relating to basically local food and beverage product and a high energy or high quality food and beverage product. It's connectivity. It's customer recognition. Do you think these are all things that are just endemic to the industry as a whole, not just to your brands?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The world's changing so fast. I remember the day, wasn't that many months ago when I used to stress out to print out a boarding pass, and if my printer didn't work, I was pulling my hair out because I couldn't get on the airplane, And, now it's on your phone. I think that, all these buzzwords we're talking about are crucial because the world's changing extremely fast, and there's no real indicator that's going to predict where it's going to be in 3 years. And so you really got to be on top of your game in all those categories: technology, food, size of the room. The personal service, I think, is a huge component of it, is making sure that people are recognized for who they are as individuals, and and that's what we know now. But the technology is going so fast that we'll see. It's going to be an adventure, that's for sure.
Do you see the values of entitlement and empowerment changing at all as this group ages?
I mean,
because that's a key element to a lot of what you're saying.
It is. I think, look, the biggest, it's less entitlement. I think it's really how quickly the likes and the taste evolve. And the biggest challenge to the lifestyle hospitality sector is staying relevant and evolving what the customer's taste, which is, we lose sleep over this point all the time.
Another thing I'll touch on is, on the topic of entitlement, is, it's almost expected now that you have free Wi-Fi in your hotel. It's almost expected now that your hotel is sustainable. So I think the newer demographic feels entitled to those things. They feel entitled for you to know who they are because the technology is available to you to know who they are and what they like. The technology is available to give them free Wi-Fi and give them connectivity, to give them good food. So they know that it's out there, so they feel entitled to it. And so, yeah, that sense of entitlement is a real big deal. There's not always a margin in it either. It's kind of, it costs you money to give them what they expect they deserve. So.
What a great sector.
Yeah.
Well, does anybody else have any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. When you look at big flags, everyone wants to market to the millennials. Everyone wants to capture this market share. But it's, the energy of a lifestyle product isn't something that you can program on a piece of paper and say, we'll have, this hip new farm-to-table restaurant and this lounge with this certain vibe. I think it has to be the DNA of the company. And it's a challenge. I mean, we started our company with food and beverage and nightlife, and that's what we live and breathe every day. And to stay relevant is a challenge. I don't think it's something that you can pick up organically and say, today we're going to be in the nightclub business, or today I'm going to have the hippest, coolest restaurants, because you know how many options everyone has, and you either get it or you don't. And I think it starts with the DNA of the company. And if you're used to counting, I have 2 sweet and lows in the coffee maker with 1 straw, and this is the brand standards I'm used to developing my hotel, that's the DNA of that company, and they're great and they can scale up. I don't think it's that easy to just switch the light switch and say, today we're in the business of creating energy and vibe within our hotels.
Although said they are trying.
They're trying. They're
Marriott's
spending a
doing
lot
the
too.
Marriott's doing the great
Yeah.
rooms. Hilton's got a new concept. All the big brands now are trying to, in terms of getting customers out of the rooms, into the lobbies, create action spaces. They're trying with very increased success, and that's still evolving very much. We see the overall industry moving very much towards some of the things that you're talking about. Although, again, as you said, you can't program creativity, and that's got to come from somewhere. Oh, yes, over there.
Yes. Building on the concept of authenticity that's been spoken about, to me that seems to lend itself towards exploring the destination that you're in, to getting off the property. And I'm curious, what strategies, are there strategies beyond simply programming that you can use to keep the guests and their spending on property while still maintaining that authenticity?
So for someone like Yotel, where at the end of the day we're really doing a rooms product and it's really a rooms factory, that's where we're using our public spaces to really pull in the local element of it. So our, as you'll see in a few weeks, our F&B elements that are coming to these new hotels are not going to be what you see on 42nd and 10th. It's really very local and what would go in those particular markets. So Singapore, which we have announced, those F&B elements are really going to make someone from the US or somebody who's never been to Singapore stay in that public space when they're working and co-working, because they do have that time where they have that 2 or 3 hours where they need to finish their work. So instead of going to a coffee shop or being in their room, they're going to go to these new F&B elements that will entice them to actually get a feel for what the Singapore market really is like.
Thank you. One last question over there, and then we're going to end it.
Thank you. I was just curious, because we hear a lot in the news about how millennials are also dealing with just like financial issues, debt, loans, all of that. So you all are very much into a market of people that, in my mind, aren't the typical person, and probably have money from their parents that are really being able to allow them to finance that. And so as you're talking about like looking into not just primary markets, but some of the secondary markets, do you see that your product could be sustainable, or how does that work when you're really looking at a niche of people that, when we're looking in the news, doesn't really categorize a lot of millennials?
Well, I think a lot of the same fundamentals these gentlemen are all talking about here are really being applied to other wider brands or more accessible brands that the major flags are coming out with. Hilton just announced Canopy 2 days ago, which is, quote, that it's affordable luxury. Aloft by Starwood.
Yeah, they're brands that have been developed at the lower end of the lifestyle spectrum from a price perspective. We happen to compete in the higher end of that millennial range spending, but I think just as that segment's also being addressed with new brands with that target in mind, but they tend to be more limited service if the average spend is less, and they tend to focus on not the luxury consumer per se.
But still, for example, Hilton went in their announcement of Canopy a couple of days ago. If you read their 4 key values, a lot of the same things these gentlemen talked about. They talked about being locally relevant. They talked about connectivity. They talked about giving the guests communal spaces. So it's the same fundamentals these gentlemen are talking about, just in a more scaled down version. But basically, all the major brands are going after that, are recognizing these values exist. These values are not endemic to just higher spending millennials. It's across the board.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we're just past our time. So, gentlemen, thank you very much.